Okay, discussing Job. I can't go chapter by chapter. There's 41 or 42 chapters, whatever, but I discussed Job 1 and Job 2. The first two chapters are enough for me, but for the rest of the 30-some chapters, Job is going back and forth with his friends, and he's basically, having pity on himself, but he's also loving God and thanking God for his grace or whatever. And it depends on how you interpret it. Some people say that he did nothing but complain the whole time, and others were like, no, he was thankful for at least having God by his side. So I'm going to leave that up to you to read. But I thought this was interesting. In Job 39, I'm going to just start off at 39:4. God is basically telling him, who are you? See, that's another thing. God comes out and says, whoa, Joe, who are you? Were you there when I laid the foundations? Were you there when I set the stars in the sky? Who was that? Was it you or was it me? Was it you who... And God starts ripping into Job. This is a guy who's got everything yanked out from underneath him. His kids died, his servants, his wealth, everything boils. Satan's attacking him, and God's giving him an ass chewing, if you don't mind me saying. But just in verse 39, verse 8, let's just say from 39 verse 8, this is God talking. He said, he ranges the hills for his pasture and searches for any green thing. I just kind of broke into the middle. Verse 9, it says, in my NIV book, in verse 9 it says, will the wild ox consent to serve you? See, he's talking to Job. He's like, who are you? Will the animals listen to you? And stuff like that. And he says, will the wild ox consent to serve you? This is God talking to Job. Will he stay by your manger at night? Can you hold him to the furrow with a harness? Will he till the valleys behind you? Now, I want to interrupt for a second, because if you go to the King James Bible, the Holy Bible, written, God-breathed, perfect, in verse 9 it says, will the wild unicorn serve you? Will the wild unicorn, whatever, hold him in the furrow of the harness or whatever? Google that. Google Job 39, and I believe it's either 39:8 or 39:9. Read that. Because in the original King James, they talk about unicorns. All the new books, again, erase unicorn, because there's no such thing as unicorns, and replace it with ox. So there are several. Google, is there unicorns in the Bible? And it'll give you all the verses. There's more than one. There's like 5 or 6 or 4 or 5 talking about unicorns. And then in verse 41 it talks about Leviathan. And because I've read both the King James and the New International Version, and one of the things that they're doing, he's talking about how this got scales and it's giant and it breathes, fire brands stream from his mouth, sparks of fire shoot out, smoke pours from his nostrils as from a boiling pot over a fire of reeds. His breath sets coals ablaze and flame darts. So I guess what I'm saying is, in Job 41:19 or 18, somewhere around there, and you can start reading, you can read the whole thing. Now we've got dragons. God is basically saying, hey, Job, was it you who created this and did that? And can you control the unicorns? And can you make a pet out of a dragon? I mean, he says, this is one kind of funny. He says, can you make a pet of him like a bird, or put him on a leash for your girls? This is what the New International Version says when he starts talking about Leviathan in Job 41, verse 1. Just read that in the NIV version, and then read it in the King James Version. But either way, in the end, God mocks him. God doesn't mock him, but basically pounds his chest and says, whoa, who are you? Look what I did. I did this, I did that, and talks about unicorns and dragons. And the moral of the story at the end is, because Job didn't fall for the sin and blame God, he got double for his trouble, as my bishop said. Double for his trouble. Other words, and then he goes, so if he had 5,000 donkeys, he's got 10,000. If he had 30,000 sheep, he's got 60. If he had 10 kids, he's got 20 kids now. Isn't that nice? Here's a man who built up his whole life, and my bishop likes to say he got double for his trouble, and he got 10 kids. And the whole church screams, yay! He got double for his trouble. Now he's really, really rich and really, really prosperous and got a really, really big family. All for what? To play a game, to prove a point, to show Satan that he wouldn't fall? God, according to the story, killed 10 of his kids. His servants were like being stabbed and burned alive. You know, they're out there working and boom, they're set afire. Dude, why are you messing with people's servants? Why are you playing games? They're human beings. The story is stupid. It makes no sense. I've lost a child. It's devastating. And even though I got 3 kids now and I love them with all my heart, it doesn't replace. And I only got to spend a few minutes with that child. Memories are still there. It's still upsetting. Could you imagine having 10 kids and they're all eating dinner together and die? There's a lot of memories there. And then they all get killed. And guess who did it? God told Satan, hey, go check out Job. Go mess up his life and I'll prove to you that he won't quit on me. It's a stupid story. I think it's just a story, first of all. I don't think God and Satan are having conversations up in heaven. I don't believe any of it. But for people to think, go read Job and that'll humble you, it didn't humble me. Or go read Job and you'll know that God will take care of you. Hello. If there was a God that was allowing Satan to give boils and killing my kids or allowing Satan to kill my kids to prove a point and then coming and giving me an ass chewing because and then telling me all the great things that he's done and he was there before the foundations of the earth and all this other stuff, I'd want no part of that. Understand, God and Satan are Job is, although Satan doesn't get brought up towards the end, the star of the show is God, Satan, Job. A righteous man, a perfect man. They changed the word perfect to make him say he's blameless. They had to fix that. They talk about unicorns and they talk about dragons and God's telling Satan to go down there and do whatever you want, and God's launching fire from heaven one end, and Satan's somehow they're getting men to attack them. You know, I thought we had free will. How do you tell tribes to attack them? You're going to program them to attack them and steal his and kill his servants with the sword. Why were the servants killed for this stupid story? Why were animals, some were killed and some were just captured? The whole thing it's not a good story. It's a horrible story. It's a horrible story about a horrible God having fun with a horrible Satan and tearing up this guy, a perfect man's life, all to prove some point. And it didn't work for me. It doesn't work for me. So, read Job, read 1 and 2. Then you can get bored after, listening to all this crazy complaining and going back and forth. Then at the end you get to hear about unicorns and dragons, except that gets changed in the newer books. So you'll never know that if you don't read the original book that's so boring and written in English, the thou shalt and all that. So it's hard to some of it sounds like poetry, but for the most part, you won't read that. So you won't find out that there were unicorns and dragons in the day of Job. Now, some Christians will go, well, I do believe if the Bible does say unicorns and dragons, then there were, because dragons used to be dinosaurs. Maybe there was dinosaurs, but fire-breathing dragons and unicorns? I don't know. That's your choice. But why did the new Bibles take that out? I was just wondering. Read it. Check it out. Good luck.